Okay, so today we are going to discuss the roadmap to AI product management in 2025. And as part of this session, I think I'm broadly going to speak around what all do you need to know, what all do you need to master if you want to become an excellent AI product manager. Right now, I use the term product manager to describe product managers, senior product managers, group product managers, or even director of PMs and VP. And the reason is because I think PM is a very broad term. In fact, like Stripe is known for not keeping any PM titles. It just calls everyone product managers. So just for simplicity, I'll be referring in this entire session like PMs to represent like PMs, SPMs, GPMs, DOPs, VP, and senior VPs, right? Because the competencies don't change much when it comes to AI product management. So before we start, brief introduction about myself. I have been trying to help PMs since last 5 years by creating blog like Growth Catalyst newsletter that I started in 2020. It's a little off, by the way. Growth Catalyst newsletter is what I started in 2020. In 2022, I published a book, Tech Simplified, which is pretty popular in Indian subcontinent. And 2023, like last 2.5 years, I've been building pmcurve, where I have built advanced product leadership skill courses like growth, product sense, strategy, AI, tech, and all of that. Right. We are also building tools for PMs to help them become better at interviews or become better at their jobs. Now, in terms of industry experience, before starting pmcurve, I have actually dealt with product analytics teams at Housing and Upgrad. I have worked with growth teams at Upgrad, MX Player, Flipkart, Unacademy, all 4 companies. And I've also built like AI products for last 10 years, right? So in terms of AI products across the companies that you see in last 10 years, in Housing, I was looking at classifieds, demand supply matching. At Upgrad, I was looking at lead scoring for sales team, text-based AI teaching assistant. And this is like way before in 2016, 17, when generative AI was not on the horizon. At MX Player, I was looking at content recommendation. This was an OTT platform, which was later acquired by Amazon, right? So content recommendations is what I was looking at. Flipkart, I led voice search and shopping assistant. This was like cutting edge tech back in 2019 to 21. Unacademy, again, search home-based recommendations because I became part of senior leadership. And as part of learner experience, these were some of the pieces I was managing. And at pmcurve, we are building an adaptive learning platform, which is in beta right now. But yeah, I think I'm also teaching a course around AI, and this is the 3rd course that we are going to start. So that's broadly my AI ML experience for last 10 years. Now, with this kind of experience and of course, like the experience in building courses and cohorts for experienced PMs, I'm going to share the agenda for this session. So we're going to talk about 4 things. The first is, what are different levels of AI proficiency, right? So how do you understand where you are right now is the first question to ask, because it will help you become self-aware of where you are and where do you want to go, right? Next, we talk broadly around AI and product management. Now, when I say AI and product management, it's not just AI product management, because what most of you already understand and know, like AI is affecting how product management also works, right? So even the traditional product management is changing because of AI. And of course, then there is building AI products, which is AI product management, right? So AI for PMs and AI product management. So while the focus of this session is actually like AI product management, we'll also be talking about AI for PMs a little bit, wherever it's relevant. The third thing is like we'll talk about what makes good AI PMs and what actually makes excellent AI PMs. Like what are the traits, what are the different behaviors that actually create excellent AI PMs. And this is again very, very important, because my belief is once you have a goalpost, once you know like these are the behaviors to imitate, these are the behaviors to chase, these are the skills to chase, it becomes relatively easier to plan and execute that, right? In absence of that kind of roadmap or that kind of knowledge, products suffer, but I believe people also suffer. right? So we are going to talk a lot about like what sort of career roadmap do you have in front of you, skills roadmap do you have in front of you, if you want to become an excellent AI PMs, and which is why the third section talks about good to excellent AI PMs. And finally, I talk about like how do you start building and learning, right? So these are the four things we are going to cover in today's session. If you have any questions, you can put the questions in chat because I tend to pick questions from the chat. If these questions are very relevant to the slide that I'm covering, I tend to pick it in real time. Or if it is something that can be answered later without blocking your understanding, I will pick it towards the end of the session. Now let's get into the first topic, which is levels of AI proficiency. Now, if we are talking about levels of AI proficiency, now this is something that I introduced in my book Tech Simplified, and it got a lot of love because before that, PMs were always worried about, okay, I know I can't code, I don't have to code, but how good am I at my sort of technical proficiency? And I'm just borrowing that chapter from the book and putting out like levels of AI proficiency here, where like if you look at that, there are 5 levels, and there could be 6 levels by the way, but broadly like these are very, very meaty sort of levels that you can get. And these 5 levels cover most of 95% of the PMs out there, right? So level 1 is I have heard the terms, but find it hard to explain them, right? So most of us, I would say 100% of us who are PMs have heard the terms. We have heard RAG, we have heard like fine tuning, we have heard LLMs, we have heard prompt engineering and all that. It's like, so there's so much buzz around AI that we can't miss not hearing. We can't miss the terms, right? We have to hear the terms on LinkedIn. Anywhere you go, any conference you go, there are people talking about these terms, right? So I believe that level 1 is where like everybody is, right? There's no level 0 in AI. The level 1 is where everybody is. Level 2 is, but the thing about level 1 is you have heard the terms, but as Richard Feynman said, there is a difference between knowing the name of something and knowing something, right? The same thing differentiates like level 1 and level 2. At level 1, you just know the name of something, but at level 2, you actually understand them. You can explain them to a kid, you can explain them to your grandma, and then you can also explain to your boss, right? So you understand AI tech terminologies very well. And you can also chat comfortably to AI engineers around projects. At least when they're speaking, it does not feel like a foreign language, or it's not that you're not able to make sense of it, right? And AI engineer is again a new term, so I'll just deconstruct it. It usually means there are data engineers, there are data scientists, there are AI ML experts in teams, there are ML engineers. All of that kind of comes into AI engineering, right? So the level 2 is when you get into a discussion around AI, even if you're not managing this product yourself, you can comfortably talk and understand, right? So you can speak AI and you can understand AI at this level. Level 3 is where you have gotten into building. Now, in Tech Simplified, I think when I was writing Tech Simplified, one of the core problems I had is I knew that PMs are not supposed to code. And then I also took a call that PMs don't have to understand DSA, data structure and algorithm. And DSA is almost 50% of like SD1's job. Because if you look at all the interviews, DSA is very, very heavy. So I made a very conscious call of excluding certain topics from the this thing where PMs actually had to code, right? Because the understanding was PMs don't have to code, right? And but with AI, things change a bit because I believe AI gives you a couple of capabilities which are very different. First of all, like you can do AI prototyping. You can build prototypes, like AI can write code on your behalf. While you cannot debug it if you don't know how to code, if you understand tech very well, you can build a reasonable prototype. Even if it's not production level, you can build a reasonable prototype, which you can give to 10 users, 20 users for testing, right? So that is the first thing AI changes. The second thing AI changes is like if I look at the first 8 years of AI product management in my career, it was all about, like we literally had to clean data, label data, train models on data. And then we needed a data engineer to build this pipeline, a data scientist to deploy this and all that. What LLMs have done beautifully is they have abstracted that entire thing. So LLM is sort of like a brain that you have gotten, which is trained statistically. Because of that, you can just take the APIs, you can plug it into your functional prototype, and you have an AI product ready. And which is why level 3 becomes very important for AI PMs, which is you can actually write detailed advanced prompts, but you can also build agent workflows for hobby projects, right? So that's where level 3 comes in. So what I see here, the difference between, let's say, the technical understanding or technical proficiency and AI proficiency is this is more oriented towards building. Technical proficiency was more oriented towards understanding technical terms and also like understanding system design, right? NFRs, FRs, and all that. But this is more oriented towards like actually building. So that is level 3 for you. Level 4 is you have shipped at least one AI feature in production. Now, this won't happen unless like you have literally built a serious side project and you have given it to 100 users, 200 users, 500 users, or you have actually like been an AI PM within your org and you have actually shipped things in production. The reason that there needs to be a level around this is because production level products are way different than all the hobby projects and workflows that you see on LinkedIn. They're way different than like every AI agent workflow that you see on LinkedIn that people are commenting for, or people are getting access to, or people are sharing, right? Production level literally requires you to generate value. It's not just fancy. It's not just like you understand a piece of code or you understand a piece of system or you can build something with your hands. It has to generate value. That's where level 3 and level 4 varies. That's the difference between production level systems and basically just building simple AI demo products. Not even demo products, right? Like some of, like literally like it works. It does not work on dummy data. It works on real data. But the difference between level 3 and level 4 is that you are putting your neck on line for in front of users, in front of customers, in front of the team, internal teams, and saying that this will create value, this will get adoption, this will actually bring in revenue. And that's why there need to be a differentiation between just building and building something useful in AI, right? Level 5 is where, like, I believe many ICPMs will not get to, at least not in the short run. But for senior PMs or product leadership folks, I think they can get to like building AI strategy and roadmap for a product line. The absolute level is level 6, where you are a CTO or the highest ranking member of the org. It could be a VP in Series B, Series C. It could be a CTO in Series D, E, and beyond. But where you are literally driving the AI transformation in the org, right? That's a cultural change. So I've not included that because first of all, like I don't feel qualified to actually tell that because I've not done that myself. But at least till level 5, I have done everything. So I feel qualified to talk about that. I also feel level 6 is where like there are very few folks available in the audience, right? So these are the levels. I'll just review it once. Level 1 is you have heard the terms, but you find it hard to explain that. You literally know thing. Level 2 is where you know the name, just don't know the name of something, you also know that thing. Level 3 is when you have built something as a hobby project. Level 4 is when you have shipped something of value. Level 5 is when you have built the roadmap and strategy, right? So I just want to do a quick check with the room. I love doing polls, surveys. I think we as PMs all love doing polls and surveys because it helps us understand the audience, number one, and it's also useful data to determine which areas should I focus on in this session, given that you folks have been kind enough to give me the time, the next 40, 45 minutes. Okay, so I'm starting a poll. Please complete the poll and it will help me understand what kind of audience I have here. So I'll wait for like 20, 30 more seconds and we'll close the poll. I think we have enough sample size. Okay. So I want to sort of share this with you as well. I think you can see it on my screen, right? So we can see that level 1 is where like 25% of people are there. 45% people are at level 2, 18% are at level 3, and that's good, folks. Like I believe level 3, most folks at level 3 are self-starters. Like they have just tried to figure out things. They have taken courses. They have gone through some free courses or some libraries, and they've tried to build things. Level 4 is where like, yeah, we have less AI PMs. And as the sort of the format of this session is, right, the roadmap to AI product management, I think that justifies it. Level 5 is where we have minority. So thank you for joining, folks. Already an AI PM, we have like 15%, but 45% like people are looking to pick a project within or outside work. I believe this also includes people who are trying for AI PM roles, because these are like highly coveted roles. So already a PM, just want to hear and understand. So these people are like just starting out. And then there are aspiring PMs. I usually don't get aspiring PMs in my audience, but yeah, thank you folks for joining. Okay. So thank you for taking the poll. Let me start with the first topic that we have at hand, which is AI product management. So this is from Andrew Ng. I think one of the people that I have admired for long, at least for last like 10 to 15 years, is Andrew Ng. Since the time he launched his machine learning course at Coursera, I've been an admirer. I took this course around college or like just after it, and loved the course, right? So Andrew Ng is one of the people who is a good operator. I want to give context why it matters what Andrew Ng talks about, because he's one of the few people who are great operators and great educators. It's very hard to find this combination, right? Andrew Ng, literally when he left Baidu in I think 2016 or so, 2015, 16, Baidu is the Google for China, right? The next day, the stock actually moved by 6%. Like it went down. Like he is that sort of person, right? So he's a very strong operator. He is co-founder of Coursera, and also he founded. He's an entrepreneur operator, but he's also a great educator, right? And which is why like I usually trust his advice. And one of the things that he wrote in his letter caught my eye, and I'm sharing this with you, is like one major force flowing this ship, particularly in AI product management, is software engineers being technical are understanding and embracing AI much faster than product managers, right? So software engineers is saying that they are embracing this AI much faster than PMs, right? But it's hard to find people who understand how to build AI products and product management, right? So the intersection is what is missing. And the demand for AI PMs for him is going to increase drastically. And we are seeing that already. I think Akash Gupta shared this stat today on one of his posts, which showed that while the number of roles for traditional PM is actually going down year on year, like 24 to 25, the overall number of roles has stayed constant, which is good news. And the percentage for AI product managers has actually increased up, right? Which is what Andrew Ng is also talking about. And if you look at that stat, like I would suggest that AI is something, and given that OpenAI is sitting at 700 million weekly active users right now, it's literally a product that has crossed 1 billion users. And the last product that I remember which actually crossed 1 billion users beyond FANG was TikTok, right? So it's that significant. An AI product, which we believed, at least like 2 years back, I believe that AI is good, ChatGPT is good, but it is going to have a lot of early adopters. When it comes to late majority, people are not going to care much, because it is very relevant for knowledge workers, people who work with knowledge, but it is not that much relevant for majority of the world, which is not like knowledge work. That thesis has changed, because 700 million weekly active users, and this growth, like in March, it was at 400 million. So 4 or 5 months, it has gotten to like 2x at hundreds of millions of user scale, and something which is like unprecedented. What I want to tell through that number is AI is going to be relevant for every product manager out there. The reason is because so far AI was like until 2024, AI was seen as a something which is aspirational. And then at the end of 2024, beginning of 2025, you started seeing CEOs, especially like CEOs of Shopify and all, coming and saying that we want to build a AI first company. If you don't want to learn AI, please, like, the door is open, you can go through the door. And it felt like it was in pockets, but the numbers, the kind of growth that we are seeing with ChatGPT and all, is an indicator of another thing that happens when such a huge adoption happens in consumer base, which is the consumer expectations change around products. And suddenly, more and more products will start catering to that sort of expectation, because as Bejos also talked about, the customer NPS, like if you want to chase NPS is always a moving target, because the moment you made 2-day delivery possible, there was like 1-day delivery somebody is asking for. The moment you have 1-day delivery possible, there is 10 minutes delivery, which is happening in India right now, right? So the customer expectation is a moving target. And in that moving target, AI is going to get added if it has billion users. And if it has billion users, it means that there is no product that will be untouched, right? And which is where, like, for PMs, I think the first thing that is important when it comes to AI to understand is, if you want to stay relevant, I believe that you have to master AI. You don't have to like become AI product manager, literally, but you have to understand AI. You have to learn AI the same way you learn tech or you learn design, right? Where you're not designing or you're not like coding, but in AI, you are, at least you'll not be untouched, just like you're not untouched from design and tech, right? You have to understand it. You have to work with those people. Similarly, you'll have to work with it, even if you're not managing an AI feature. The AI PM needs to work with you, and they needs to sort of collaborate with you. And you having this understanding is going to go a long way, right? Not to mention it will open doors. And the second is people who are ambitious and they want to get ahead of the curve, because we are still early. If you look at the evolution of AI, we are good at infra layer. There are 3 layers, right? So cloud computing, if you look at that analogy, there is like infra layer of cloud computing, which is AWS and GCP and Azure. But then there is also the application layer, right? So infra layer is where most of the work has happened. Application layer for cloud computing were all these companies like Airbnb, Uber. It became very, very easy to build new companies, new apps. And that enabled a lot of new apps, new companies, new value creation, and existing value destruction. Same is going to happen with AI, because when it comes to applications, we are not there yet. We have solved the infra layer. We have built the LLMs. We have built LLMs which are useful, and we have built the compute needed for these LLMs, which is where NVIDIA is. So infra layer is there, but the application layer is where we are just starting, and which is why, like, you can get ahead of the curve if you master AI in 2025, because as more and more companies build applications, they will first gravitate towards people who already know this, right? So those are the goals, 2 goals for PMs who are trying to master AI in 2025. Now the question becomes, like, what defines a good AI PM? So there's this amazing artifact by Ben Horowitz. I'm not sure, like, how many of you have read it, but he wrote about good product manager, bad product manager. And it's one of my favorite product management artifacts. And I make sure that I read it every year, right? And the reason I love it is because it demarcates what behaviors do you need to display to become a good PM, right? And similarly, like what I try to do here is to do a similar thing, which is, how do you demarcate whether you are displaying the behavior of excellent PMs, right? Whether you have the knowledge of excellent PMs and all that, right? So good PMs, we already know, like, this is what a good PM looks like. They have a learner or growth mindset. They understand tech. They're good problem solvers. They're detail oriented, and they're collaborative, right? Most traditional PMs who are good, they actually have all these skills. So the question becomes, what about like excellent AI PMs? How does that changes? And what changes is, like, the 5 things that I talked about, they fundamentally shift when it comes to AI product management. So what happens is the learner mindset becomes a builder's mindset, because so far you could learn about tech, you could learn about design, and you could work with designers and tech people. But AI has given everybody, like especially PMs, an ability to build things, ability to build prototypes, ability to build design, everybody can become an average designer. Everybody can become an average developer. That's what AI has enabled, right? You can become an average developer. You can become an average designer, which means there is no excuse not to build something, right? And build has to come from, like, it has to be derived from a goal at the end. You don't have to build if it slows down your team. Depending on the context, you might say that I don't have to build anything. I don't have to build AI prototype. My design team is great. I don't have to build, develop any functional prototype because the leadership is bought onto my roadmap. But suppose the leadership is not bought into the roadmap because they don't understand your vision, or you have like startup PMs will actually relate to it, right? You don't have the luxury to have an analyst, a designer, a dedicated dev team, everything coming together at the same time for you. So in startups, you often fill the gaps within the team. And AI has given the capability to actually build the gap very, very well, right? So I feel that AI works very, very well for startup PMs, right? But at the same time, even for like PMs in larger companies, like I was at Flipkart, it's a large org, it's a like 40, $50 billion company. Now in Flipkart, one of the key challenges for any PM was to show something to leadership to get a buy-in, right? And usually this was like mostly PPTs, but now PMs can actually show fully functional prototype. If people are not convinced, you can take out some time, you can test things with users, you can get feedback, you can create a very compelling narrative. So the way we have gotten buy-in from stakeholders is fundamentally changing. And if you're not seeing it, it's just because it's very unevenly distributed. Some PMs are doing it, other PMs are not doing it, right? So as the dialogue goes, the future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. That could not be truer, like that is very, very true for AI in this era, and for like builders mindset in this era for PM. The second is, like, you don't just understand tech, you have to be technically sound. And what I mean by that is being technically sound means you can read code. I am not a coder. I have not done coding. I can read code today because last 1 year, I've built a lot of prototypes. I can debug code. I can literally go and figure out if edge functions are not working in Supabase. And believe me when I say that, I didn't do any formal training in coding, even in the last 1 year. It just happened that when you are building things through your by yourself, you get to build this incremental understanding. Just today, like there was this PM who is building her capstone project around a Chrome extension, right? She is part of the second cohort of AI product management course. And she was stuck between the persistence issue, which is like database, even if the items, there's a to-do list, even if the items were checked, it was not persisting through database. And she literally, like, I gave her some keywords. She went through those keywords, took those keywords to Claude. She figured everything out and she was able to resolve that in 2 hours. Now, again, she's not a coder, right? So technically sound is something that I want you folks to sort of be at, like be it system design, be it like troubleshooting, be it RCAs. And I'm not saying you have to master it on day 0, but if you never start, you'll never reach there, right? And people are already starting. So I would say, like, try to be technically sound. The third is, like, PMs, good problem solvers. See, the thing is, good problem solving was good when you are given problems, right? We are in an era where, like, even the highest of leadership at companies or at places don't know which problems should be solved with AI and which problems should not be solved with AI. Why? Because it's a very new domain. Like, people have to like be relevant in the industry. You have to like beat your competition on offerings and everything. You have to do a full-time job, and then somebody is coming and telling you to sort of learn this new thing, right? People don't have enough time for doing everything, and which is why, like, the knowledge is uneven. And that means that there is a massive opportunity for people who can identify problems and who can be problem focused. In fact, there is another reason why being problem first or problem focused is super important for AI PMs. And that reason is, like, that reason actually comes from this book by Yuri Levin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right. I just was reading that book. But he was like co-founder of Waze, and he talked about this. The book title is like Focus on Problems, Not Solutions. Fall in love with problems, not solutions. And what he says is basically like the journey to PMF is extremely hard because people fall in love with solutions. You build a solution, you build something, and how can you not fall in love with it? The problem is if you fall in love with that thing, you'll have a lot of heartache, and which is why people say founder's journey is hard. But as like some of the leading AI PMs in the industry, if you choose to follow that path, you are literally leading your company into some new initiatives. And any new initiatives will go through problems. Like whatever you pitch is not going to work in day one, especially with AI, because AI are like probabilistic solutions. They are not deterministic like software. In software, if you build something, it will work 100% of time, or at least 99% of time, the way you expect it to be. In AI, it will not happen. So which means you'll build something, it will fail. And then you have to go back to the drawing board, you have to build it again, or at least like iterate on it multiple times before you hit the product market fit for that feature or for that product. Now that requires hyper focus on problems and not on solutions, right? So while sort of we all know that we have to start from the end, like working backwards, which Bezos talks about, and we have to be problem first. Like for AI PMs, it's not something that is like that is the next level of competency that you need. It is the first level of competency that you need, and without it, you can't be an excellent AI PM. Right. The next is detail orientation versus systems thinking. So detail orientation is good, but systems thinking is what is required in building AI products. And the reason is again the same. There are too many choices to choose from. Just with like LLM API providers, you are confused whether you should go for Claude, whether you should go for OpenAI and all that. And if you come to Eval's platform, it's another like set of 10 different tools. There are so many tools because the area is still evolving. And one of the things like, so there are two types of strategy, right? So one is like the emergent strategy. So usually most of the strategy books talks about like competitive strategy. Porter talks about it, and all the other books talk about it. Seven Powers talks about it. I think there are very few books which have talked about emergent strategy. And what it is basically if a area is moving very, very fast, what you need is not a like competitive strategy. You need an emergent strategy because things are emerging. Like new tools are coming, new competition is coming, new ways of doing things are coming. What was true yesterday will not be true tomorrow, right? And we are already seeing that OpenAI slashing down the cost by 1/10 literally kills a lot of startups, but also creates a lot of startups because a lot of ideas were not even feasible at 10x the cost that OpenAI APIs are in August, right? In August, 7th August 2025, they launched GPT-5 and literally like reduced API cost by 1/10. So the thing is, you have to, how do you sort of account for this kind of thing? The only way to account for this kind of thing is to be a systems thinker. Can you think of second degree effects? Not just like state first degree effects. Can you think about second degree effects? Can you think about abstraction? Can you, rather than integrating an API, can you think about a router that actually routes your queries to different LLM providers and chooses the one which is most effective, or chooses the one which is the cheapest for the task? So systems thinking, and it will start with system design, by the way. If you're not great at system design, you can't be good at systems thinking. So if you have a question, where should I start, Deepak? Like I would say, go and study system design. Just high level design, not like low level design, just high level design. Because that is something that you can do without learning how to code, without spending 1 month into it. You can just literally learn system design in a couple of days, right? That could be the start, but there you start seeing how different pieces come together and like why one choice affects other choice and all that. And suddenly you start thinking about these interconnected pieces in technical systems and how they work. Why do you need to understand that, by the way? Like, why can't the engineering team figure it out just the way they figured all the technical decisions? And the reason for that is in AI, only technical part is not important because it's such an emergent area, because the costs are changing, because a lot of players are changing, offerings are changing, features are changing. We are living in an era where somebody who has a context, a strong generalist, can become 10x more effective when making decisions as compared to a strong specialist. because you have to think about business, you have to think about marketing, you have to think about user NPS, you have to think about the technical challenges. And that is why if you do systems thinking, you can become an excellent AI PM. And the last thing is like collaborative is good, but I want you to, just like I said, systems thinking is needed so that you can connect marketing, growth, business, all aspects of it to the product in any PMF or 0 to 1 product. And because we talked about like AI being having a PMF problem that PMs have to primarily solve, you have to understand business and growth. You can't let go of business growth strategy to and still become an excellent AI PM. And which is where like I wrote this a while back on LinkedIn and sort of people resonated with it, which is 80% of AI product management is still traditional product management. It's just that the table stakes have changed, right? The table stakes have gotten to much higher. The bar for like even traditional PM is much higher to become an excellent AI PM, right? So there is that, like, how do you become an excellent AI PM? Now the question becomes, what do we do in this new era? Like, how do we move forward in this era? And I'm going to give you the roadmap for just that. Okay. So there are few things that you need to understand. I'll quickly go through this slide because I just want to send the message and then we'll get into the details of like, what do you need to actually like learn? So the thing is, you have to understand that the PM has changed fundamentally. AI for PMs is important because the PM product management itself is changing. Discovery and use case validation used to take 2 to 3 months. Now you can use AI for user research. You can use AI for synthesis. In fact, people are using AI for building simulations of audiences, right? That's the research that is ongoing. But at the very least, you can use AI for prototyping and you can show it to users, do quick usability tests, take some feedback, get the buy-in quickly. So discovery and use case validation, both within and outside all, has very different tools, and which is why the cycle is much shorter, right? So if you're still spending that much of time that you used to spend 2 years back, I would say you should reassess whatever you're doing, your workflows and everything. You should reassess the tools you're using, and you should literally invest time in making sure that you compress that from at least 3 months to 14 days or 7 days, right? The second is development and shipping has changed, especially around AI products, because now we are dealing with probabilistic outcomes. LLMs can hallucinate. LLMs can, and a single hallucination is enough to spoil your PR campaign, right? Like people can just put it on Twitter and you can get a bad name by having like hundreds of thousands of impressions on that. So that has become very, very important in development and shipping, which is handling edge cases and managing hallucinations is very, very important. In tracking and iterating, we are not just talking about like simple metrics. I think even the metrics are changing. For example, task completion has become a metric for AI agents. Effort reduction has become a metric for a lot of LLMs. And OpenAI, like GPT-5 launch, if you see, like they have this slide around economically viable task efficiency. And O3 is at 33%, whereas GPT-5 is at 49%, right? So while O3 feels a much stronger model in task completion, effort reduction on economically important tasks, like GPT-5 performs way better, right? And those are the numbers that we need to pay attention to as PMs. Then there is like, we have to build feedback loops in product, and these have to be very quick feedback loops because they define how good you can build products, right? So if you don't have feedback loop, you don't have RLHF, reinforcement learning through human feedback. And which is why you see all AI products that you see, they have thumbs up, down on every query that they send to you. And even if you do it 1% of time, that's enough data for them to improve their product, right? And the fourth is stakeholder expectation is changing, and education, you have to educate them so that like the company does not take short-term decision of like firing support staff or firing developers or firing like whatever teams or even product teams for that matter, right? So you have to educate stakeholders around what, like how does AI affect the business? Now, this is a job that an AI engineer cannot do because they don't have context of the business or the users, but you have, and you are sitting at the intersection of technology and business. And it is the mandate of a PM today to provide that stakeholder education across, right?
And then there is also like in B2B, if you work in B2B, you have to manage your customer expectations because they're just getting in FOMO that your competitor launched something and they're now considering whether they went with the right vendor or not. So you have to make sure that you also educate them around the viability of some features and the usefulness of some features and how marketing works and how you are going to deal with that and all that. Because there is real cost to both of these things. If senior management or like stakeholders don't understand the implications of AI on business or product or users, there could be some real damaging decisions that could be taken in the organizations. And not to mention, if it happens in B2B on your customer side, you will see real churn coming in next year, right? And that will again affect the top line and bottom line, and it will be a hard time for the company. So this is like how the product management in new era is going to look like, where like every part of it, like discovery and use case development and shipping, tracking and iteration and stakeholder education, all is going to change, right? Now, in the last 1 year, what we have seen is basically we are moving from charts to agents. We are moving from model performance, we were just focused on model performance last year. Now we are saying, let's build agentic systems, right? We are moving from POCs to production. Like just last year, we were just sharing look, this is a cool feature that somebody built. Now people are asking what is the business value of it and how much business value have we created? How much cost saving have we generated and all that, right? And then there is some evolution of features to platforms, right? Which is, if you look at Notion and Firefly from Adobe and all, what you see is they started with some AI features, but now they're building full-fledged AI platforms in themselves. So those are things that are changing. Now, if you need a roadmap, now that you have the full context, and I believe the context is more important when it comes to road mapping than the actual items. Because if you have the right context, you can add some of the items yourself, right? So whatever I've added here, it is 80-20. 20% of the things that you need to know to do 80% of the things. But the rest of the journey, once you start on this 20%, is something that you can very easily derive. One, because you have mastered the 20%, but second, you understand the broader context from which this roadmap is coming. So key areas to master for you is going to be first is make sure that no matter whether you are going to become an AI PM or not, make sure that you use AI as PM, right? And there are 3 areas that I want you to invest in. First is AI prototyping. Really understand how to prototype with AI. Deep research. Now, this is something just toggling that button of deep research is not deep research. We are PMs, right? We have to do way better than how a general person uses large language models. So we have to figure out how to write prompts so that there are more verifiable research report that is coming, more relevant data is coming to us and all that. Because the difference in prompt or difference in the way you do research is the difference in the way you build products and you build strategy. And that is that could be something that, think of it like this: if you have lesser insights than your competitor, you're not going to sort of take the market share from them, right? So somebody who can do deep research way better with the AI tools that we have today is going to beat somebody else who was great at user research or great at domain research by using Google search. Because AI is the new Google search. LLMs are the new Google search. So make sure that you master it. And the third is advanced prompt techniques. So what I mean to say is there are 4 or 5 things that keeps circulating in social media around, give it a role, give it an example, give it that, right? But if you go deeper into prompt engineering, they're literally there was a paper which had 45 prompt engineering techniques. And we actually covered that in one of the sessions in cohort 2. And 28 of them are actually relevant for PMs. Rest 17 are good for researchers or developers, but 28 of those 45 are actually relevant for PMs. And these are things chain of thought is what you start with, but then there is thread of thought, and then there is a self-refine, then there is reflection and all that. So all the tools that you are seeing, for example, agents take this pattern of reflection and planning and all that. They just use 2 of the prompt techniques, which is COT and reflection. And that makes agents way more effective as compared to simple chatbots. So think of like how much you can benefit if you really master like the prompt engineering techniques, right? So that's something that I would give it to you. What I'll do is I'll add like the paper link in this sort of, there was this question. I can add a link to this document and we'll share this PPT. So just be on the lookout. So finding the right use case is the second thing, which is like, how do you find the right use case for probabilistic models that LLMs are? And how do you figure out where do you use LLMs versus where do you use traditional AI? So right now, most of the people are hyper-focused on Gen AI. And still, if you see all the AI products that are built in search or recommendations or like major AI products, will leave support out of it, which is a new use case for AI and primarily depends on NLP and all. But if you see like most of the products, what they're doing is they are assembling, like they're integrating generative AI into traditional AI. And the reason for that is traditional models are also good. In fact, they are more efficient and more cost effective at times, right? So those algorithms, like, can you figure out like for this particular use case, this is the kind of model that I need to use. I should go for traditional model, not generative AI model and all that, right? Third, can you figure out the ROI calculation? Because when you're presenting this to leadership, they're going to ask, have you accounted for the cost dip that we are going to see next 1 year? Have you accounted for like the usage increase in case the adoption is high and usage is really high? Have you thought about abuse cases and how we are going to handle them? Because a lot of times handling abuse cases is a manual effort and it requires you to hire people who can manage those cases, right? So ROI calculation is a big deal for AI features. It's not as straightforward as software features, which just had like design and development and cloud computing investment, right? So ROI calculation is something that you need to understand. You also need to understand how to write AI PRD, but I'll just give you one like relief here by saying that if you have written good PRDs in the past, and if you understand these 5 areas that I'm covering, you can write good AI PRDs. There's nothing fundamentally that changes when it comes to AI products. You still are looking at AI ROI. You're still looking at like what is the right system design. You're still looking at what is the right model selection and all that. You're still looking at how are we going to handle edge cases and all that. You're still looking at product design and all that. So there's not much that changes in the PRD structure, but it's just that the content of the structure changes depending on how much expertise you have when it comes to AI products, right? The third is AI product design patterns. Like I said, it's an emerging area. So for example, one thing that you might have noticed is UI design language is very different for AI products, like color and font. If you see, most of them are adopting for color gradient. They're also adopting for more modern fonts. They're also adopting for, most of these have this purple or blue sort of colors, right? So color and font, like you have to understand the UI design language, because if you don't understand that, what will happen is you might ship a product, a AI feature in your product, but no user will get it because they have this expectation that the iconography for AI products is going to be different. The design language is going to be different. And if it is not happening for the user that you have built it for, they will have less trust in the product that you have built or the feature that you have built. So it's extremely important to master UI design language. And then it's also important to master UX patterns, something like human in the loop, routing, graceful degradation. So human in the loop, I'll explain. The rest of the things you folks can read. But human in the loop is very simple pattern, which we have been using, like we were using it even at Flipkart. We were using it upgrade, like it was literally AI teaching assistant will try to answer, but if it is less confident, it will transfer it to a human TA and human TA will answer the question. So human in the loop has been a design pattern that we have been seeing in AI products since the time I've been building these products. But HITL becomes very, very important for LLMs because it's almost like all the patterns that you see. It feels like humans are talking when LLMs are talking, and which is why the handover to humans becomes very graceful. Like the user might never notice that a human has gotten into the loop in some cases, right? Now the question is, do you want to make them take a note or not, right? Because you'll see in some chatbots, you literally see that an executive has been assigned to the chat that you're having with the bot. So that is one design pattern. So what you'll see is there are a lot of hidden knowledge in design, AI product design, that you need to understand. The next is very obvious, which is like learn all about AI, right? LLMs, how do they work? The attention is all we need. Why is that true? And how is that true? How do LLMs work? How do they get trained? Should you use prompt techniques? What prompt techniques are useful? Context engineering, RAG, agentic RAG, orchestration layers, evaluation, trust, and safety. Like all of these things are sort of like AI knowledge that you need to have while building these products. Right? Now, this is what this fourth one is what you mostly hear about, and possibly the first one, which is AI prototyping. But rest of the things are equally important, if you ask me, if you are literally building AI products. The last bit is AI product strategy. Again, something for which the literature is still evolving, right? So I would say of the list, like design, finding the right use case, and strategy. These are where like the literature is still evolving and people are learning, they're sharing, and they're documenting everything, right? For example, like one of the things that I talked about in last Maven session itself is how rice becomes rice X, which is like there is rice for prioritization, but there is AI capability and the stakes, AI stakes, right? So AI capability and stakes become equally important in the rice framework while prioritizing. Because if you don't include them, rice simply does not work on roadmap prioritization when it comes to AI products, right? So rice X or rice AICS is very, very important for prioritization. Build versus buy versus fine-tuning decisions are very important. Like one of the tenets I keep telling people is 99% of products don't need fine-tuning. And that is true. So when do you fine-tune? When do you not fine-tune? When do you build? When do you buy and all that, right? How do you create moat in the product? And by the way, like while moat might feel like a strategic topic, it's not, because what we know is you can literally create products such that users invest their time, energy in the product, and product gets better for them over time, hence improving switching cost. So switching cost is being used by AI companies actively to create moat. Very, very clear example that everybody knows about is actually OpenAI, right? OpenAI introducing memory of your profile is actually introducing switching cost for people, because if you go to Claude, you have to give context about yourself when you are asking personal questions every time you go to Claude. But when it comes to OpenAI, there is a memory that is already there that manages your profile. So possibly it can derive from that profile, like it can infer some of the things from that profile, and it can talk to you in a very organic way. You talk to a human, another human. And that is very delightful, if you ask me. Initially, I was very apprehensive about that launch, but when I started using it, it was very delightful that I don't have to keep giving it more and more context. So context management or using context for switching cost is a very simple example of moat creation, but moat creation is happening in different ways. Workflows are another example and all that. And finally, like how do you handle growth for AI products? So there is this B2B company, Cluely, and Roy Lee is the founder. He is 21 years old. If you look at them, like people keep saying that the product is mid, which means product is average, but the marketing is genius for them. They have used TikTok like anything, right? They have like hundreds of accounts on TikTok, and they have just created this buzz around Cluely since the beginning. And it started with with a viral app, but now they're getting more serious into B2B sales and all. But even now they're going after like marketing pretty fast. And growth, if you look at like companies are understanding that growth is important for for these products. Lovable just hired Elena Verna as their head of product growth, and also growth is important. And if you're building a feature, AI feature, growth is definitely important to you. Once you hit the PMF, right? Once you hit the PMF, you have to think about growth. So which is where it becomes very, very important in AI product strategy. Okay. So yeah, this is like broadly, I would say like what you have to learn. I'll just summarize it with a framework so that you don't forget, right? This is a framework with which like I built the entire course when I was starting the first cohort for AI product management. So the framework that I use is UT frame. UT is use case U, T for technology, right? So basically figure out the biggest user frustrations, pick the use cases where generative AI can solve it uniquely, or AI can solve it uniquely. And basically like build a basic prototype, right? So that you can understand the limitations of the technology that you are thinking of using. So if you're thinking that basic APIs will work, like try to integrate those APIs very quickly and give that prompt to like OpenAI Playground and see how it works, right? So the thing is like first step is like figure out the use case, build ROI for use case and everything, like build the business case and product case for use case, and figure out the technology for that use case. Is it a traditional AI model? Is it a generative AI model? Does it require RAG? Does it require something else and all that? That is where you start, right? But simply if you just focus on basic technology that you need for it, like if you just say that, Deepak, I need traditional AI model here versus generative AI, that is also fine, because that is a major branching that happens when it comes to tech. The second is foundation. So this is broadly for Gen AI products, because Gen AI is usually like being used for 80% of AI products today. So foundations is basically like using foundation model, right? So trying different prompts and models, running basic evals on them to see like whether it is able to solve the task reasonably well, right? So imagine that you're building an AI interviewer. So here what you do is you basically give a very simple prompt saying that you act as an AI interviewer, and you have this job description, you have this company, and try to interview me, right? Try to ask me a follow-up question. And then you see whether your prompt is leading to basic good questions. And then you try to add some answers to it and see the follow-up questions and all that. So you run basic evals with foundation models, and then you move to reasoning and resources, which is you start thinking about RAG, fine-tuning, reasoning, and all that. So will a reasoning model be better than a basic model, right? Because it will introduce latency in the system. Will it be still better than the basic model? That is what you have to determine. Will a RAG be better, right? Will RAG better the sort of model output? And again, you run the basic evals to see if the output improves. And then you say like, let me then, if it is a complex problem, let me use agentic. Now agentic is optional. Like we are trying to build everything agentic, but what you realize is 80% of things that people are calling agentic are not agentic. They are simple workflows. Agentic requires planning a particular task, using tools to get that task done, and then reflect on that output, and finally making some autonomous decision. That is not happening in 80% of things that you see around, and they are just basic workflows. All the N10 workflows that you see, they are workflows. They're not agents, right? They're not AI agents. So agentic is what you need to sort of then evaluate whether you need agentic, whether you want AI to make some decisions on your behalf, on the user's behalf, on the business behalf, and all that. And again, run basic evals to see if the output improves. And then you get to MVP, right? Which is M. So get your first functional version ready, show it to team members or some basic like beta or alpha users. And finally, before you push it to production, or like before you get it to production, you have to run very, very extensive evals. And you have to define the success criteria and improve on success criteria, right? So UT-Frame will help you like progressively move towards building product. It also helps you with another thing, which I believe is a mistake a lot of AI engineers make and also like AI PMs make, which is you don't want to bring machine gun to a knife fight. And what it means is basically you don't want to use agentic where a simple foundation model prompt will work. Or you don't want to use RAG where a simple like improving that prompt with few examples will work, right? So the point is, why do you need to make it more costly and more complex if simple things can work? And the only way to know whether the simple things will work is to progressively start with simple things and keep adding complexity on top of it, right? So this is like broadly what you need to learn in order to master the AI knowledge. And besides this, like I said, like you need to have AI product strategy, you need to have product design, you need to find the right use case, business and otherwise. And finally, you have to learn how to use AI for your PM. Right? So we are at 10. I think this is broadly what I wanted to cover. I can take questions now, but before that, quick announcement. We have our next cohort sort of starting on September 20th. You can use PMC 150 to get $150 off on this course in Maven. I will just put this in the chat. in case you want to check it. Now, the thing is like this course, it's already 95% full. We have like 7-8 seats left. So if you are in a process of making a decision, feel free to drop me an email at deepak@pmcurve.com, and I'll try to get back as soon as possible. Right. So this is basically the program. A good question to ask, like usually I'm a PM, so I'll try to answer this, like show this program as a PM, which is like the broad things that we cover in this program are three. Like one is AI prototyping, because we want people to build functional prototypes at the end of the program. Second is the entirety of AI product management that I covered. And third is AI strategy, which is a meaty topic now. What makes it unique? This is basically like, of course, there are live sessions like every Maven course, but more importantly, we have working hours. So we dedicate 2 hours every week where everybody comes in and they work on their capstone. And the reason to do this is twofold. One is I can get into rooms and actually answer queries, but so people get unblocked. But more importantly, people can block this time and work and just like forget about their capstone project. Otherwise, you're always thinking some guilt. You always have some guilt around, oh, I'm not able to make progress on capstone. And while I'm doing the course, I'll not be able to finish my portfolio project and all that, right? So that's there. There are many cases in live sessions, because what we believe is even if you build an AI product, you'll not be able to understand everything in AI domain. So if you are building a simple agent, you'll still miss 5 or 6 things that is required you to build another AI product in generative AI. Not to mention, you'll miss the entirety of traditional AI product management. So we, every session have like 1 hour live mini cases, which we solve for that particular topic so that people can get confident around it. We also have ease of deferring cohort. Now, this is something that I did because of 2 reasons. One is we have seen people rejoining cohorts because AI is changing fast. So there are like around 20 folks from cohort 1 who are again joining cohort 3 because in last 6 months, AI has changed very fast, right? And that brings me to the last thing, which is we have a last month in AI session, which was just this morning. 1.5 to 2 hours we dedicate just talking about different updates. So in today, for example, we were talking about why abstraction layers are important now, about how API cost reduction affects AI product management for PMs, and so on and so forth. So most of these topics are strategic because this is attended by people who have gone through this advanced course already, right? They have done capstone and all that. So they are at a much more advanced level and they can do a lot in those 2 hours. And catch up on whatever happened in last month, right? So this is more or less what I have around the program. These are like, this is a flavor of capstone, which is like, we usually offer 3 tracks we are offering for the first time actually, 3 tracks in capstone, because what we saw is solo capstone is hard to complete, right? So we are like the 3 capstone that we are offering is you can pick one of these, which is Glean for PMs, shopping assistant, Chrome extension, or a lead qualification through voice agent for a D2C brand, right? There's time commitment mentioned because I believe that that is very, very important for people who are in their jobs. But more importantly, we have solo projects, right? So this is one solo project, for example, which Gaurav built, which was like he's a new parent, so he built something which is basically during the playtime, how do you finalize an activity with your kid? By focusing on different category of skills like fine motor skills, cognitive development and all that. I simply love this project. There are other projects, but I simply love this project because I have a 3-year-old. So I just put it here, right? But there are solo projects also that we support. These solo projects can be something that you're doing on the side or could be related to the company that you're working for, right? For solo projects, you don't need to collaborate. You can just like touch base with me for any questions that you have. Right. So yeah, this is more or less what I had for the session. Again, thank you for joining, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. I'm trying to enable chat. Save for chat. Okay. Yeah, enable save chat. How to learn system design or system thinking. Yeah. So if you're trying to learn System design, I would say like just go and read Tech Simplified. Believe me, like I'm not exaggerating when I said that this is literally like the pain I had, which I solved by writing this book, just like any PM. Like they say that scratch your own itch. Tech Simplified was born out of that. It will take you maybe a couple of days to read the entire book, and that's it. So that could be a good starting point. Beyond that, you can go to Byte Go. I think I love his content, and you can read more. So Byte Go is for software developers, but once you are done with Tech Simplified, you can go and you can read all the engineering blogs that you want to. Design thinking, there is this book. So design thinking, I think there are a couple of books that I recommend. One is Alchemy. So Alchemy is not for design thinking specifically, but it's such a brilliant book that it covers a lot of product sense and design thinking through unrelated examples. And the second book that is there is, I'm forgetting the name, Donna Meadows. Let me just. Thinking in Systems. Yeah. Meadows. So Thinking in Systems is what you can also read. And this should be good. Yeah. Thanks, Madhav, for. Okay. Byte Go, it's a newsletter. I'll just open it. Yeah. They have a newsletter, which is like, I think for free. So you can just join that. Deepak, thanks for the session. Can you please tell us how the course is different from just trying to learn everything on your own through multiple sources that are available online for free? So there are, I would say like 3 differences. To be honest, like one of the things that online sources actually excel at is basically for AI engineers, there is everything available online, right? Because for AI engineers, you need to learn how to build AI products, and which is where most of the content is there, right? There is like a lot of code on GitHub. There's a lot of libraries. There's a lot of documentation for AI developers and all that. For AI PMs, you don't find that much content. So what people do is they go through Andrew course, they go through like different write-ups from different sources and all that. And usually for the AI knowledge part, I would say you can build a decent understanding. It can take time, but you can build a decent understanding of the modern AI stack, right? Where you suffer is basically like, how do you use AI as a PM? How do you find the right use case, convince stakeholders, evaluate ROI and all that, right? Because this is not a knowledge that is out there, and not a lot of PMs have gone through it, so people are not writing about it. How do you figure out AI design patterns, right? How do you know you have known enough to just like be convinced that you can now you will not make any mistakes in AI product design? And then the product strategy part, again, something that people don't write. So most of the things that you see that is available is actually engineering stuff getting repurposed for PMs, right? So there was this blog post by one of the PM influencers, which was talking about how to maintain dev and production in one of the like vibe coding tools. And my question is, as a PM, why do you need to do that? Unless you are a solopreneur, unless you are like, you are the developer, you are building it, you don't need to create like dev and production and know how to do that unless you are a developer. So while learning is good, not all learning is good, because there's just too much to learn. So how do you know which is useful for PMs, which is not? And the same problem, by the way, happened with Tech Simplified. Because when I started learning about tech in 2018, after the Google interview fiasco, now that's a long story. But once I started learning tech, I spent next 6 months learning Python and another 6 months just doing DSA. None of those are useful for PMs. So the thing is there enough content on the internet? Yes. In fact, I would suggest you can go to Claude and you can just ask Claude questions and learn from it, right? We have a much better solution to learning as compared to like anyone in the history of humanity. But the problem is you don't know how to what sort of guardrails should you put in when learning this AI stack. right? And that is what like this gives you. And that way, like it gives you. So first step is it saves you a lot of time and energy. Second is it covers other things which are more relevant for AI product managers, but not relevant for anyone else, like not relevant for developers, or so they're not covering that. The third advantage is, of course, there is like scarcity of AI PMs. So you need a good community that can push each other and learn from each other. Not to mention the connections you made are the connections you are making in other AI product-based companies. So that is there. But that is not the main part, by the way. I believe that you can network. If you have the will, you can network without that. But the third important thing is the capstone. Because the thing is like, if you just go and try to build one of the capstones that I told you, you will find like how hard it is to build a production ready app, right? And which is why like the goal is to help you build production ready, not like just build a demo or build a prototype. What does it take to build production ready app? That is the main goal, right? So yeah, that is why like I would say I'm running the program, investing my time. If the problem is solved, we don't need to resolve it.
No, this is helpful, Deepak. Thank you.
Thank you, Raman. Do we need to procure any software in order to finish the capstone project? Again, something that not relevant to this session, so I'll spend less time on this one. So usually we need to have like Claude. I advocate for Claude Pro. I don't take like people's answer for Claude free version because I believe that the value is simply too high. And for a couple of months, you'll need to procure Lovable or any of the one vibe coding tool license, right? Barring that, unless you are shipping it to users, you don't need to invest in credits and all. Like maybe you can buy $5 credit to just build and test and eval and all that. But mostly Lovable and Claude. Those are the things I advocate for. Nowadays, if you have Claude, people are able to prototype in Claude also. So just Claude works. Can you share your honest view on careers for new non-coders? Will the jobs likely reduce, or what is the scenario that might happen most likely as per you? I know upgrading is the only solution, but so I'm a non-coder, right? And I don't plan to learn coding. The reason is because I believe that AI is already an average coder, and at best at this point of time, if I spend next 2 years in coding, I'll become an average coder. So AI is anyway going to replace me there. So there's no point in learning to code, at least for me, right? That's my personal assessment. But at the same time, see, the thing is, people keep telling this again and again. Even the ones who are very bullish on AI, they keep telling you this again and again. AI is bad at a couple of things. And we are good at those things. That's the good part. First, AI is bad at judgment. And the reason AI is bad at judgment is because it does not have the world model to course correct the judgment. So you will see AI will hallucinate on very silly stuff. And part of the reason is it does not understand the world the way we understand it. And which is why like people like Yale, like people like Marcus, I forget his full name, but Gary Marcus, and those are saying, advocating for a symbolic AI, like symbolic and large language models need to merge in order for LLMs to become more intelligent. Otherwise, they'll be dumb. So they're probably more of a probabilistic models, and they can seem intelligent, but at the same time, they lack the judgment, right? And you might have seen this already, right? If you push AI from two different directions, saying that, can you critique this? And it will write the best critique. And then you say, but this is not correct. And it will say, yeah, that is not correct. Why? Because at times it can have strong notions, but most of the times it does not have strong notions. It's just following your prompt. And judgment, I would say, like judgment is the core skill of a product manager or a founder. Even for developers, judgment is going to be a core skill, like system design, architect choices, understanding the context of business. Remember, right? It does not have a world model. So the context of business, context of users, context of everything around is not there with LLMs, right? No matter how much internet data they can consume, they still won't. All of the world is not on internet, right? And definitely not translatable into text. So that's judgment is the first thing that LLMs are bad at. I would say, I would ask you to improve your judgment. Invest in learning design, building your design sense, product sense strategy, growth, like learn about diverse fields to become a much better PM. And the second thing that AI is not great at is, like most of the PM job, by the way, AI is not great at. Because what you end up realizing is PM job is there is always an average answer to any PM question that AI can provide. And if there is a bad PM, right? A PM who does not have enough training and enough experience, they will just copy paste that answer and it will look reasonably good. So just like AI can make anyone an average developer, it can make anyone average PM. But the thing is, it does not mean PMs will be replaced. It just means the bar for PMs is much higher, which is what this slide was all about. The bar for product management increases. Now, the good news is you can meet that bar because you have something at your hand which was not available already, which is AI. You can use AI to learn. You can use AI as a thinking partner. You can use AI to draft a PRD very, very quickly. That used to take like 3 days of your time. Now you can do it in 30 minutes. And you can focus a lot on refining your judgment, making the right decisions and all that. So if you ask me honestly, I'm more excited to be a PM in this era. And the reason is, by the way, like I still believe I'm an operator because I keep building products. I'm not a full-time educator. But I'm very excited to be a PM here because I can literally work on things that were very exciting around product management. And I can outsource all the boring stuff to AI. Like meeting notes, sharing summaries, summarizing a doc, and all those things. Even creating presentation. I'm not great at creating presentation. Visual design, I hate visual design because I feel it does not add value. I can spend that much time in generating insights. But yeah, with AI, I can build decent deck. Right? There are people on the call who have seen my decks in the past, and they can possibly put it in chat, like how much improvement this is. Right? Enroll is not connecting for me. Okay, it's okay. Like you have my email ID. I would say, like in case you face any issue, just drop it deepak@pmcurve.com or support@pmcurve.com. We'll add this into the slides also. Is this Gamma? Yes, it is Gamma. I love Gamma, by the way. One of the AI products I'm absolutely in love with is actually Gamma. Another is Claude, and the third is GPT-5. Yeah. Any other questions? I'm a product designer for more than 9 years. What is the roadmap to become an AI PM? Yeah, so product designer to AI PM is product designer to product manager to AI PM. Like I said, to become a good AI PM, you still need to become a good PM. So my recommendation would be to still go through one of the traditional PM boot camps, which teaches you about basic AI skills, and then also learn AI product management parallelly. If you have if you understand AI and if you understand product management, like product sense and analytical and behavioral, all those rounds, I think you have a reasonable guarantee that you can become a PM. The second thing that I will add to my advice is, I would advise you to be in an organization. And if you're not there yet, like I would want you to go there even in your current role. I want you to be in an organization that allows this transition, because it's 10x much easier to build credibility and move into PM role at a senior level. And the reason I'm telling this, Munir, is because you seem like a senior person, right? So at a senior level, it's lateral product hiring is very rare. Like anybody who is telling you that it happens, again, we don't, at least based on the data that I have, like of 1,000 PMs and all, I don't see that happening that often. So the best way is to actually move within the org. And if for that you have to join a bigger org, because bigger orgs actually allow that. Even startups allow that, by the way. But try to see if that path is possible within the organization. But even to pursue that path, you first have to master. You have to do at least like some learning on AI and some learning on product. I hope that answers the question. I'm happy to answer a follow-up. Can you share your honest view on career for known non-coders is already there? Yeah. Around the resources, I'll just add it to slides, just like be on the lookout in the email that you get. I'll add the sources that I talked about. Yeah. Okay. This is all, folks. Thank you for joining and thank you for being a wonderful audience. I'll see you in next session. Bye-bye.